If I could pick one word to describe this man, it would be tradition. He longed to rekindle the good old days. The days when the people of God were living in God's land. The days before exile. This was also a holy man. And when you combine his holiness with his desire for tradition, you get this love of the law. Oh, did he love the law? He went to the best schools so he could learn the law. He studied under the best professors. He's kind of like you and me. He knew all the original languages. He could speak Aramaic. His Hebrew is much better than mine. I realize that's not saying much, so let me restate it. His Hebrew is better than Dr. Stewart's. Yeah. And to back that up, it's because he can read it without vowels. If this man had a motto, it would be Ezra 10, verse 11. Separate yourselves from those around you. Separate yourselves from your foreign wives. This man was passionate about that verse. In fact, if he lived today, he wouldn't go to an R-rated movie. He wouldn't set foot in a bar. No, he believed in separation. He would probably spend money on the best firewall that money could buy for his computer because he is not going to set foot near sin. If he goes near sin, he becomes unclean. If he goes near sin, he becomes unclean. His name, the group that he's a part of, it actually means separation. He's a Pharisee. Well, one day this Pharisee was in Galilee, more specifically Capernaum. It's a very, very busy town. Imagine the chaos of Market Basket on a Sunday afternoon mixed with the diversity of the Olympics. And that's kind of what was going on in Capernaum. And as he stands on this ridge, outlooking the sea, he can smell the fresh fish blowing in off that ocean, the sea current. It blows through his long, dark robe. And he looks out and he sees that rabbi. It's the new guy on the scene. He's been pushing the envelope. He says things like that he has ultimate authority. This Jesus is the name he goes by. In fact, just the other day, he said that he had the authority to forgive sins. That infuriated this Pharisee because he knows that only God has the authority to forgive sins. So he looks on in anger as he sees Jesus walk the coast with some of his followers. And he eyes him up as he goes near a tax booth. That's the part where you gasp. He goes near a tax booth. Well, since you didn't gasp, let me explain to you why you should have gasped. You see, the Pharisee, he's going to stay back from the tax booth. Because if he goes near sin, he'll become unclean. You see, this tax booth represented two things for this Pharisee: disloyalty and uncleanliness. We'll start with disloyalty. It was a symbol of Roman occupation. This was a pillar of Rome's conquest in God's land. On top of that, the man sitting inside was a Jew. Is an unpatriotic Jew who has taken his enormous wealth. He's gone to Herod, and he said, I'll be the highest bidder if you give me the privilege to take tax on all the Jews that are around in this area. He's a traitor. He's a sellout. And for that reason, he's unclean. In fact, the Pharisees would often write about the tax collectors. They would appear on the same pages as murderers, as prostitutes, as robbers. One of the Pharisees, a famous Pharisee, wrote that they were flies. Imagine the inside of a dumpster. You got these trash bags that have seeped that gook that we don't even really have a name for, and it covers the bottom, and that stench rises. And here comes the flies. That's a Pharisee. No. I mean, that's a tax collector. And so the Pharisee, making sure he's not going anywhere near that, he stays back. And he watches Jesus. Not only is he getting near, that's enough to get him upset. He starts talking to Levi. And he says, he asks for Levi to follow him. Whew. Now he's getting really upset. Because that kind of language, that's not just any language. Follow me, that's disciple talk. The Pharisee knows disciple talk because he has disciples. And he knows that he rubs shoulders with these guys on a day-to-day basis. He's intimate with them. He would never call a fly a filthy tax collector. Because if he goes near that, he'll become unclean. So he storms off. Later that day, the Pharisee is with his other buddies, and he catches wind that there's going to be a meal, a banquet. And there's going to be other tax collectors and Pharisees. But guess who else is going to be there? Jesus. Well, since you didn't gasp, let me explain.